The world is no longer defined by a single superpower. Instead, we see a complex web of nations, each pursuing its own interests. In this new order, oil remains a powerful force, fueling economies and shaping geopolitics. When oil flows shift, global stability is at stake. This is the story of a high-stakes clash over black gold. But it's also about something deeper: strategic autonomy. For rising powers like India, autonomy means making choices free from outside pressure. India, with over 1 billion people and a booming economy, has made this its foreign policy cornerstone. The Ukraine conflict redrew energy maps, with Russia turning eastward and India seizing the chance to buy discounted oil. Washington watched closely, hoping to sway India, but India refused to be anyone's pawn. Tensions simmered quietly, until a single social media post changed everything. Donald Trump, never one to shy from the spotlight, claimed a diplomatic victory over India. His bold statement forced a complex debate into the open, turning it into a global spectacle. The world was about to witness a power play of immense proportions. The stage was set for a new test of India's resolve. Trump's announcement landed without warning. On his Truth Social platform, he claimed India's Prime Minister Modi had promised to cut Russian oil imports. Trump framed it as a personal diplomatic triumph. One phone call, problem solved. The post went viral, instantly turning a nuanced issue into a global headline. Was India bowing to US pressure? Had strategic autonomy been compromised? The timing was explosive, just before key elections in both countries. For Trump's base, it was proof of his influence. For the world, a potential geopolitical shift. Energy markets wobbled, and capitals scrambled for answers. The claim was plausible enough to sow confusion, but improbable enough to spark skepticism. Would Modi really make such a promise to a former president? The ball was now in New Delhi's court. The world watched, waiting for India's response. The stakes had never been higher. The world's reaction was immediate confusion. Newsrooms and diplomats rushed to verify Trump's claim. If true, it would mark a major shift. India yielding to US pressure. But as hours passed, skepticism grew. Analysts noted that major policy changes aren't announced via social media by ex-presidents. European officials hoped for a breakthrough, but many doubted Trump's narrative. Moscow and Beijing dismissed the claim as American bluster. For China, an Indian pivot would be a setback, but most saw this as US domestic politics at play. The consensus shifted. Belief gave way to doubt. The world waited for clarity from New Delhi. New Delhi's response was calm and calculated. No angry denials, no rushed press conferences, just silence. When the official statement came, it was measured. India's energy policy serves its national interest, not foreign demands. No mention of Trump, no confirmation or denial, just a restatement of strategic autonomy. By refusing to engage, India diffused the controversy. The message: India's foreign policy isn't dictated by tweets or phone calls. This approach reinforced India's image as a mature, steady power. India's doctrine is clear: friends with all, enemy to none. Multi-alignment, not non-alignment, is the new mantra. India maximizes its options, preserving freedom of action in a complex world. The response to Trump was a textbook example of this doctrine. India would not be bullied or bounced into a decision. To understand India's oil policy, look at the numbers. India imports over 85% of its oil. Energy security is a necessity, not a choice. Affordable oil keeps factories running and inflation in check for 1.4 billion people. When Russian oil became cheaper after Western sanctions, India seized the opportunity. The decision was economic, not political. Billions saved for the Indian economy. Stable fuel prices are critical for Modi's government and public support. Foreign policy and domestic stability are tightly linked. India's leaders argue it's unfair for wealthy nations to dictate its energy choices. Diversification is key. India buys from many, invests in renewables, but needs fossil fuels now. No amount of external pressure will force India to change course. India's Russian oil purchases are part of a larger strategic puzzle. The US sees India as a key partner against China, but India's ties with Russia run deep. Soviet support during the Cold War built a foundation of trust and military cooperation. Much of India's defense hardware is Russian, making a sudden break impossible. India also needs Russia as a counterweight to China. If Russia becomes too dependent on China, India's security is threatened. India's balancing act: maintain US partnership, preserve Russian ties, and keep China in check. Taking a hard line on Russia could backfire, strengthening Beijing. India's policy isn't about choosing sides, it's about managing all sides. Strategic autonomy means maximizing security in a world of shifting alliances. India resists being pushed into a corner. Its approach is pragmatic, not ideological. Despite public drama, the US-India relationship is resilient. Shared values and strategic interests, especially countering China, anchor the partnership. Policymakers in both capitals understand India's constraints and importance. The US needs a strong, stable India. High energy prices would hurt both. Behind the scenes, dialogue is pragmatic, not confrontational. Economic ties and a vibrant diaspora deepen the connection. Disagreements over Russian oil don't break the bond. The US has learned that pressure is counterproductive. Engagement and persuasion work better. India will always decide based on its own interests. The partnership thrives by managing differences, not demanding perfect alignment. This is the new model for global cooperation. India's foreign policy is a high-wire act, balancing great powers with skill. Multi-alignment is active and issue-based, not passive non-alignment. India works with the US and Japan on security, and with Russia and China on regional issues. Every move is a calculated choice. Abstaining at the UN isn't endorsement, it's strategic preservation. Critics say India wants it both ways, but the policy is rooted in national interest. Strategic autonomy grows with economic and military strength. As India rises, its voice carries more weight. Multi-alignment is a long-term project, tied to India's development. It's a bet on India's future as a global power. The Trump-Modi oil episode didn't change the world, but it revealed new realities. The era of one superpower dictating terms is over. Rising powers like India are shaping the international order. Alliances are now flexible, issue-based partnerships. The US-India relationship is deep, but not always aligned. Sophisticated diplomacy and tolerance for ambiguity are essential. For America, leadership now means influence, not dominance. Forcing countries to choose sides is a losing strategy. The future is about building coalitions, respecting autonomy. India's handling of the crisis showed the strength of its vision. True power now lies in building bridges, not walls.